just started with the topics. I didn't really write out an agenda, so we've just got the topic up here. And so today we're going to talk about how to organize your department using SharePoint. So I always preface talking about SharePoint with people with a scenario, and I'm sure probably 99% of you can relate to the scenario. If you coming in on, say, Monday morning to work in the office, and you have a lot of people waiting for you. They all want something different. Somebody is looking for copy paper for the copier because it's out, and maybe somebody is needing to change their class at the last minute, or some other task they need you to do to look up on the computer or something like that. And you always feel a little chaos. You always feel like, there should be a better way for me to handle all of this at one place, or somehow organize myself better. And it took me several years. I've been with UT for 22 years now, and it took me several years to really embrace SharePoint and decide to make that my go-to for organizing my department. So what is SharePoint? So you think of it as a framework. So it works with all of the Office 365 apps, and you can use any of those apps with SharePoint and use SharePoint as your framework. And it kind of can be structured like a website, which we'll talk about in a second. But because it works with all of the Office 365 apps, you can use it in a lot of different ways. So how can you use it? You can use it like a website. It can give you access to documents for collaboration. It can give you a shared calendar for your unit, your department. You can make a task list on it so you can keep up with your, say, ordering that copy paper because it's now out of the copy room. You can have subsites for different departments. So say you are working in a college financial office and you want to organize all of the departments in your college, then you can have a main site, and then you can have subsites for each of those departments. You can use OneNote if you've never used that before. We might get in that to a future topic, but you can have a shared notebook where you can organize a project. You can also use it as a meeting space. It works with the Microsoft Teams works with it too. So you can have your meeting space tied to your site. Yeah, there's lots of options. I've got some examples of sites on here. One of them is our shared service site with our calendar on it. We have a SharePoint tutorial site, which I'm working on building and having more step-by-step guides on how to do things that we're going to talk about today. And I also have an example of a UT staff resources page, which we'll look at some of the aspects we've talked about here.
Becky, can I interject?
Yes.
Quick. All right. So our Concur site was built on SharePoint. So Becky built. So that's a really good example about how a project can be administered on SharePoint, and she did a really good job at pulling that all together. And having one place that we can manage, internally here within our office, and we're not having to do web programming and all that stuff. You learn how to use SharePoint and you put it out there, and then it's just a question of who has access to it. So that's the great thing about SharePoint, is you can lock it down to only the people who you want to have access to it. All right, so I'll be quiet now.
Yes, Samantha brings up a great point. I wasn't going to get too down to details about the security of it, but you can have it to where you have access to a folder and no one else does, or you can have down to the document. You can have it locked down to one person. You can have it open to everyone on UT campus. It's that broad, and you can go from the document level all the way up to the full site level. So your security options and the way you can give permissions and access, you have a lot of power there. So how do you get to SharePoint? So you can access Office 365 with this direct link. You can also go to the footer of the UTK page and click on Office 365, and it'll take you to your home page, which looks kind of like this. And then you're going to click on this little thing. It's called the waffle, and it looks kind of like a waffle, so it's nicknamed that way. And you're going to choose SharePoint. Now, if SharePoint doesn't show up in your apps, there is a little all apps at the bottom here. You can click on that and it'll open up on your main page with every app that's available, and you'll see how extensive the options are with SharePoint. So how do you create a site? We're going to go in there and do that right now. I'm going to demonstrate that, and if you want to create a site along with me, go right ahead. You can log into office365.utk.edu and join me in that. Now again, if you're at the UTK homepage, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the footer, there's Office 365 here. And it will take you to your homepage, which I already had open, but the apps that you have used frequently are already here. But if you don't see SharePoint, click on the waffle and choose SharePoint. If you don't see SharePoint there, click on All Apps, and it'll open up everything, and you can choose SharePoint there. Now, when you open SharePoint, you may have access to other sites that are here at UT or even other places. This is a list of all the sites that we've got news sites, frequent sites, which are ones I go to a lot, and then some suggested sites. So you may not have access to a suggested site, but you can ask permission to access that site if you are interested in seeing what they have. This is a great way to go in and see examples of how people have set their sites up and to give you ideas for how you want to set yours up. So if you're not sure how you want to set it up, it'd be great to go into these sites that you have access to and just click around and see what they've done, see how they've built it, so you get an idea of how you want yours structured. So to create a new site, there's a little plus sign up here, create site. You'll just click on that. Here's a decision for you. We have two types of sites, team sites and communication sites. A team site is kind of what we use for shared services. So it's a way to organize your files, collaborate, share a calendar, those types of things. A communication site is like our UTK Concur site. It's a way to disseminate information, news, documents, things that people need access to. Either one can be built to your specifications, how you want, but those will help you in the first part of it because it'll offer templates for your homepage. For every page that you do, it'll offer templates depending on team site or communication site. So that choice is up to you, what kind of site you want. If you're strictly going to be organizing your department, I would suggest the team site. So if you click that, you're provided a place to name your site. The logical choice is your department name or abbreviation of your department name. I worked in business analytics and statistics before in college business. So BAS was the abbreviation of that. So you could say BAS SharePoint. You could name it BAS Department, anything like that you want. Once you type in a name, so we'll just do a test. So once you put in a site name, you'll notice that this little green thing will come up. This site name is available. If there's a site out there with the name that you've chosen, you will not be able to use it. You'll have to either add numbers or letters or rearrange it however you need to make sure that it is available. Once you've done that, you can give your site a description, tell people the purpose of the site. You can set privacy settings. So you can make it a private site, you can make it a public site, and then you're going to click next. And here you can add additional owners. So owners are people who can actually change everything on the site. They can delete pages, add pages, rearrange things, do whatever they want. Members, on the other hand, are people who can access documents and maybe download them, maybe edit them if you give them the permission, but they can't change the structure of the site. So if you have, say, a department head or a lead staff that wants ownership, then you would add them there. And then, of course, your departmental employees, staff, faculty, students, whatever they are, you can add the members there. So once you've done that, you're going to click Finish. I'm not going to do that because it does create a site and it is very difficult to delete a site. So I'm not going to do that. But if you are creating a site, go ahead and click Finish. Once you do, you will get something kind of like this. It's just a blank site. And you may have some suggestions over here on the right for templates to choose from, and you can feel free to look at those, choose a template. If you want to edit your site, you just click on this little pencil up here that says Edit. You add sections by using these little plus signs. You add columns and new sections by going over here, hovering on this plus sign. So you can choose your column structure. We'll just choose one column. And then you can add any component you want. So you can add text, image, file viewer. If you've gone on to the UTK Concur site and you've seen the instruction sheets, the how-to instruction sheets, and you look to the left, it looks like an image of the PDF. That's what that is. That's a file viewer. You can have an events page. You can have a group calendar on here. You can add buttons. You can add all kinds of things. Hero, this hero thing is what the UTK Concur site, the homepage, that very first block of bars that you click on to access things, that's what the hero is. So if you want to do that, you can. There's endless possibilities here. If you are a coder, you can use a code snippet, or you can embed an element like a YouTube video. You can do any of those things on your site however you want. And so I'm going to go to a site that I created a while back to teach some people how to use SharePoint. and show you some examples of what you can do. So this right here is an event tool. So you saw that on the previous one where we added here and events. This is what it looks like. So when you create a site, you're automatically given access to a calendar in Outlook with this name. So if you go to your calendars in Outlook, you'll see a list, and one of those options will be UT staff resources for me. And so that is where I can add events. You can add a link to that in this menu here. So we've got one here, it says calendar. So I'm going to open it in a new tab. And so when you open it, it's going to show the events that have been added to this calendar. Those events are then fed to the homepage here. So if you want that to be your homepage, you can do that. If you want a homepage with a calendar, an actual calendar, you can do that. You can do whatever you want, add images, however you want to do it. We'll talk about this in a future Coffee and Pie, but you can do a planner. And this is basically a whitboard. You've got your to do, doing, and done here. And you can add tasks. You can show your completed tasks. Keep people on task with what they're been assigned to do. You can assign them jobs here. When you add tasks, you can assign it to them. You can have a document library. So you keep every document that your department has to keep on record in here. You can have files, a file structure that you build, adding a folder as simple as new and folder and naming it. And this is one of my favorite things that people don't often think about building. It's called a digital library. And so if you have frequent links or favorite links that you want to use, you forget where they are, or you bookmark them, but then you have a list of bookmarks that's like 10 miles long and you can't find the bookmark. This is a great way to put the most frequently used links in one place on your site, and then your faculty and staff and students will have access to these links just as well as you will. So say you're in an academic department and you're having to access Banner 20 times a day and you forget where the link is every time or how to get there every time, you could put a link for that in here and just go and click on it, and your students and faculty would have access to it too. Because of UT's system, the way it's set up, centrally authenticate. So no matter who uses the link, it's going to make you authenticate, and it's going to go to your profile or your account. So this is a great way to track your links that you use. And I bring this up because, UT's homepage recently changed, and, we got used to the old familiar and where we go to click and find what we wanted, and it changed, and all of a sudden we can't find what we were looking for. And when you go to say Kate, it doesn't go straight to Kate. It goes to a page about Kate that you didn't have to click on the link to get to Kate. Same thing with Canvas and other applications that we use to take you around the world to get there. And so if you get tired of doing that and you have a very disorganized bookmarks list like I do, then this is a great way to get those most frequently used links in there, the digital library. And all I did was dump this in as text and add a hyperlink. So if you wanted to add another one, you can easily do that. So let's just say link, and then click up here on this top part, click on the hyperlink. You just paste that hyperlink in and you'll save it. And it'll come in just like this right here. That's a useful tool. Say your department, you make instructional videos. You love making instructional videos on how to do certain things within your group. You can make a site just for that. You can have little blocks that link to the videos, and you can have a description of the videos. It's much like the UTK Concur site where you go to the instructional videos there. You structure it however you like. That's another tool that you can use here. And this is a notebook, and we might get into this again in another session. I won't go deep into detail, but when you create a site, it also creates a OneNote notebook. And it's like having a binder with tabs and paper in it. And you go in here, you type what you want, you can download what you want, however you want to do it. So that's another useful tool that can be integrated in. Notice down here, it's got a little thing, it's saying add real-time chat. So you can add Microsoft Teams to your site and have your chat there, and also have meetings, just jump onto a meeting from your site. It's another great tool that you can integrate. So that is a lot of information. There's another example of a site that I'm building for SharePoint itself, how to do all these things that we're talking about. Hopefully I'll be able to share that with you very soon. If you have a document shared in here, or a video, or anything with a name, you can type it in there and it'll find it. Now this site probably won't have very much to search, but if I go back into say shared services site. So this is our site, and say I want to find a document called add a delegate, which is a Concur thing. It's going to pull up any documents that have that title or even part of that title in it. So here's adding a delegate approver, here's adding a delegate approver, and other related documents. So it's a very robust search feature. So if you have lots of documents in your library and you have a difficult time distinguishing where you put something, say the file structure was built by somebody else and you're having trouble finding it, you can just search in there and it will take you to it if you know the file name or even part of the file name. Say this is the home site for a college and you want to add a subsite or a list of subsites. You can add your text here and have links to different pages. So when you want to create new pages, you just go up here and click new and see this. You got options. You've got document library, page, space, news post, news link, app, plan. Plan is where you do the whipboard. If you choose page, you get some options. You can do a blank page. You can do a visual page with lots of graphics. You can do a basic one with text. So you create these pages and the pages become the subsite for the department and they can add more pages to that subsite. Once you've created the pages, okay, so you can add this page to the navigation so that it's over here. So we probably want to do that. But you can also start back at the home screen and add a new section and add a link for page, that department. So I'll give you an example. Let me go back because they have one already built. Okay, here's an example. So they have department sites off of their main page. And so all it is another page that's been added to the site. And I don't think I have access to get to these now, but yeah, see, I need to ask permission to access it, but it's basically another page. And then that page can have subpages and document libraries and all that stuff. So you're just building off of the first page and making links to the other pages to be other sites. And so that's an example of using it to organize an entire college. So that's a great way of using it. And College of Business, they have a SharePoint guru. She's the best that you can get, Kay Littlejohn. So they have a lot of SharePoint use in their college. But there's an example of what they've done to build the subsites off of the main site. So first of all, if you're going to change your permissions, you can do that in your settings. Another cool thing that I didn't point out here, and I won't get into great detail, but you can see site usage and you can see statistics on who's clicking on what and viewing what and how long and all that stuff, which I've used for the ETF Concur site to determine what's most useful for people. But this is also where you can do site permissions. And the site will automatically have 3 categories. It'll have owners, members, and visitors. And you'll see here, site owners have full control, site members have limited control, and site visitors have no control. Site visitors can see things, they can't do anything with it. So those 3 groups are already built, and you just go in there and give permission, depending on what group you want them to be in. So, and this is for the whole site. So if you wanted to have, maybe say you want a folder that is for hiring, it's a personnel folder, and you don't want anyone else to have access to it. When you create that folder, you can go to the folder's permissions and determine that only you have access to it. Share services. So let me find it. So I have one here, hiring. This folder, no one else in our group sees it but me and Samantha. It's a private folder. And so you change permissions, manage access here. And so you can change who can access it, who can see it by using that. So you can lock down to the folder, you can lock down to the document. So if you have a document inside that folder and you want someone to have access to just that document, you can do it that way too.
Thanks for watching How to Organize Your Department with SharePoint.